Bon matin tout le monde. Good morning everyone. We should have a mic happening soon. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Non.
Non.
C'est pour ça que je parle. Merci beaucoup. Alors, good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Kwai. I would really like to welcome everyone and thank you for being here today, joining us outside on this cold, crisp winter. But we've been doing our exercises, so we're still a bit warm. And it's really, really appreciated that you are here. Mon nom est Mona Fortier, je suis la secrétaire parlementaire pour la ministre aux Affaires étrangères, mais aussi la députée d'Ottawa-Vanier-Gloucester. Et je suis votre maîtresse de cérémonie pour cette annonce ce matin. Et c'est vraiment important et ça me fait plaisir qu'on soit tous ici avec mes collègues pour pouvoir vous parler de cette annonce. And to begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional, unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We honor, recognize, and respect the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation as the traditional stewards of this land, and we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here today. Now, today is about looking ahead with confidence. Les Canadiens veulent des transports abordables et fiables et ils veulent avoir l'assurance que le secteur continuera de créer de bons emplois et de renforcer les communautés à mesure que le secteur évolue. This morning is a chance to speak about those priorities and to the opportunities that are in front of us. And so, without further ado, let's get to the matter at hand. And please join me in welcoming the Honorable Tim Hodgson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, to this mic.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Bonjour, and thank you for the introduction, Mona. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleague and friends, Minister MacKinnon and Minister Dabrusin, to talk about EVs at a moment where, as Mona said, the future of Canada's automotive industry is being shaped not just by markets, but by choices we make together and our plan for the future of Canada's economy and environment. In Canada, the automotive sector is more than just an industry. It's a source of competitive advantage as well as Canadian pride. The industry is built on the exceptional skills of nearly 500,000 Canadian workers. It's one of the largest export industries with more than 90% of Canadian-made vehicles and 60% of Canadian-made parts exported to the United States. It is families and communities whose livelihoods depend on making, assembling, moving, and maintaining the vehicles that Canadians and the world relies on. When tariffs disrupt those supply chains, it's these Canadian workers who feel the impact first. And we have been clear, this government will always defend Canadian workers and industry when they face unfair and unjustified tariffs. At the same time as the industry evolves, as vehicles become cleaner, smarter, and increasingly electric, those same workers and communities must remain at the very center of the transition. That demands a clear, strong, and deliberate response. Canada's new automotive strategy is just such a response. At its core, it is guided by one principle: ensuring that Canadian workers and Canadian communities remain at the center of the global automotive transition. First, our strategy is about protecting workers and stabilizing the sector. To help the industry adapt, grow, and diversify into new markets, the government is dedicating $3 billion from the Strategic Response Fund, along with $100 million from the Regional Tariff Response Initiative. We are also providing additional income support through the new work-sharing grant program, ensuring workers can stay connected to their jobs as companies adjust to changing market conditions. And to ensure Canadian manufacturers have fair access to their own domestic market, Canada is maintaining counter tariffs on auto imports from the United States. Second, our strategy is about incentivizing businesses to build and invest in Canada. We are launching consultations to strengthen Canada's automotive emission framework and exploring a tradable credit system that rewards companies that produce and invest here at home in Canada. Through Budget 2025, we are reducing costs for manufacturers by introducing the productivity super deduction, leveraging refundable investment tax credits for clean technologies and electric vehicles, and lowering corporate tax rates for zero-emission technology manufacturers. And to diversify export markets and attract new investments across the EV supply chain, Canada is leveraging its world-class trade agreements, including our recent electric vehicle agreement with China. Third, and critically, this strategy is about transforming Canada's auto sector to build the vehicles of the future and make them accessible to Canadians. Many Canadians want to choose cleaner options, but they feel like EVs are too expensive, or they worry about not having enough charge to get where they need to go. It's time to change that. That's why our new government is bolstering our support for the National Charging Network, and together with a new regulatory approach and purchase incentive program, this will give Canadians confidence, give industry certainty, and give investors reason to commit capital here in Canada, all while making it easier and cheaper for Canadians to choose electric vehicles. I'm excited that we're developing a national charging infrastructure strategy to be released this fall, which will guide the construction and development of EV chargers from coast to coast to coast. Working with provinces, territories, industry, utilities, and partners, the strategy will focus on attracting more private capital, making building EVs ready, creating and supporting a skilled workforce, facilitating grid integration, and educating the public on EVs. Simultaneously, we are actively growing our national EV charging network with a $1.5 billion investment from the Canada Infrastructure Bank in new charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure. I want to be clear, we are building from a position of strength. Since its launch, Natural Resources Canada's zero-emission vehicle infrastructure program has delivered real results, transforming Canada's charging landscape by supporting more than 30,000 public and private chargers that are open for use. Today, we are building on that success, announcing new investments under 3 Natural Resources Canada programs, all fully aligned with the Prime Minister's automotive strategy. Through the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program, we are investing more than $84 million in 122 projects across this country that will install more than 8,000 new charging stations for electric vehicles from coast to coast to coast. Through the Zero Emission Vehicle Awareness Initiative, we are investing more than $7 million in 30 projects, including 11 projects led by Indigenous partners to build knowledge, skills, and confidence in EVs and clean fuels. And through the Green Freight Program, we are investing nearly $6 million in 3 projects to help Canadian fleet owners reduce costs, cut emissions, and improve competitiveness. These total investments of more than $97 million reflect the approach laid out by the Prime Minister. Protect what matters, build what is missing, and retool our economy for the long term. By protecting workers, supporting industry, and investing in the infrastructure that powers the automotive transition, Canada is strengthening its economic sovereignty and focusing on what we can control. Thank you very much, merci, and I'll turn it back over to Mona.
Merci, Monsieur le ministre. Et vous avez raison, les Canadiens et Canadiennes, comme moi, comme consommatrice d'une voiture électrique, on veut faire partie de cet écosystème et vous avez raison, on a besoin de faire ça. Donc, merci de faire cette annonce aujourd'hui. Et aussi, j'entends les Canadiens et Canadiennes qui veulent qu'on aille de l'avant avec cette approche. Alors, now I would invite Stephen MacKinnon, the Minister of MacKinnon, the Minister of Transport and Leader of the Government of the House, to say also a few words. Thank you for being here, Stephen. The mic is yours.
Merci Mona et merci de nous accueillir ici. Merci à vous de braver le froid. Je ne sais pas qui a eu l'idée. Je soupçonne que c'est Tim parce que il est bien. Oui, il a porté un bon chapeau. I need to get to know your haberdasher.
Canadian Tire.
Et merci aussi à ma collègue, mon amie, la ministre de l'Environnement aussi, qui va vous adresser la parole après moi. Nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui pour partager une bonne nouvelle concernant notre stratégie pour le secteur automobile et plus précisément pour le nouveau programme pour l'abordabilité des véhicules électriques. L'avenir de l'automobile au Canada est électrique et nous venons de rendre cette option plus abordable pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Je sais que je ne suis pas le seul à me réjouir de voir cet avenir prendre forme sur nos routes et nos autoroutes et dans nos usines d'assemblage et sur les chaînes de production canadiennes. L'un des principaux obstacles à l'adoption des véhicules électriques par les particuliers et les entreprises demeure le coût initial. Et nous voulons donc faciliter le choix des véhicules électriques pour les Canadiens. Ce programme vise également à renforcer l'économie canadienne. En stimulant la demande pour les véhicules électriques, nous soutenons les travailleurs et travailleuses de l'automobile au Canada, les chaînes d'approvisionnement et l'innovation canadienne. The Electric Vehicle Affordability Program helps position Canada as a competitive leader in the global transition to electric mobility, attracting investment, creating good middle-class jobs, and keeping manufacturing right here at home. Affordability is key to making the switch. The new program is focused on helping Canadians with higher upfront cost of electric vehicles. This new program will offer up to $5,000 for anyone who purchases or leases an eligible vehicle. That includes purchases or leases by individuals and families, and purchases or leases by Canadian businesses for a commercial fleet. These will be point-of-sale incentives built into the transaction through a dealership. That will make these incentives easier to access with less paperwork or process. And we are focused on eliminating obstacles. So an important question, of course, is what vehicles are eligible? Well, we're talking about new battery electric and fuel cell electric vehicles sold from February 16th, 2026. That means vehicles powered solely by an onboard battery, known as battery electric, and vehicles fueled by compressed hydrogen, known as fuel cell electric. This program will also apply to plug-in hybrids. The incentive for plug-in hybrids will be half the rate, up to $2,500. If the vehicle was not made in Canada, there's a transaction cost limit of $50,000. And we want to help Canadians transition to electric vehicles and support automotive manufacturing in Canada. That is why there is no transaction cost limit for Canadian-made vehicles. The goal for this program is to assist with a transition for consumers and for the market. We know the industry is already trending in that direction. And with that in mind, the incentives will gradually decrease over time, wrapping up in 2031. This approach will provide predictability and transparency and stays in line with expectations that the gap between the cost for new electric vehicles and comparable gas vehicles will shrink over the next few years. Le gouvernement du Canada souhaite aider les Canadiens et les Canadiennes à passer aux véhicules électriques. Nous voulons également appuyer le secteur automobile dans sa transition vers les véhicules électriques tout en renforçant notre résilience économique. L'abordabilité pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes est une priorité, tout comme la création d'une économie durable et forte. Et ce nouveau programme contribuera à répondre à ces priorités. Comme je l'ai mentionné, l'avenir des véhicules au Canada est résolument électrique. Et je sais que ce nouveau programme aidera à accueillir cet avenir ici, au Canada. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, ministre MacKinnon, mon ami Steven. Alors maintenant, on sait qu'il fait froid, donc je vais accélérer et je vais inviter maintenant l'honorable Julie Dabrusin, la ministre de l'Environnement, du Changement climatique et Nature, de venir prendre la parole. Julie?
Merci beaucoup, thanks, and I'm really happy to be here. As Canada's Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature, spent a lot of time talking with workers, industry leaders, and communities across the country. And what I hear again and again is this. People want pragmatic solutions that protect the environment, grow our economy, and support good, clean, future jobs that support their communities. It's also about how we grow the economy. That's why environmental policy today is not just about driving down emissions, but it is. It's also about how we build an economy that is future ready, that works for workers, for businesses, and for families. It's about leading the world in the transition to net zero while strengthening Canadian industry, creating good middle-class jobs, and making sure our economy is competitive in a world that's moving quickly towards cleaner technologies and electrification. It's about infrastructure, trade, economic security, supporting an electric future that saves Canadians money and future-proofs. Last week, when Prime Minister Carney announced Canada's new automotive strategy, he laid out a clear path for smart economic growth, one that gives industry the certainty they need to invest, to innovate, and grow here at home. This strategy is about attracting investment into Canada's clean automotive sector, supporting the workers who build our vehicles, and accelerating a shift to zero-emission vehicles in a way that's predictable and achievable. With incentives like reducing the tax rate for zero-emission technology manufacturers, or the new consumer rebate program that Minister MacKinnon just spoke about. And Minister Hodgson today talking about the national charging infrastructure announcement, investing $74 million in 129 projects through the Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Program. We're putting in place durable and lasting infrastructure that will lead us to stronger economic and environmental outcomes for Canadians. We know that the future is electric. 1 in 4 vehicles sold globally, new vehicles sold globally this year will be EVs. EV choices are expanding rapidly from cars to SUVs to pickup trucks, giving Canadians options to fit their lifestyles. And with plug-in hybrid EVs offering electric driving ranges plus gas backup, Canadians everywhere can make the switch with confidence and savings. We're not just supporting Canadians making the transition, we're also supporting an industry. To do this, we're introducing increasingly stringent greenhouse gas emission standards to achieve our EV sales goal of 75% EV sales in 2035. This approach increases the flexibility for automakers while still positioning us to achieve our GHG goals and meeting our net zero target by 2050. Pour se conformer à des normes plus strictes, les constructeurs automobiles devront commercialiser plus d'options électriques, telles que les véhicules hybrides rechargeables et les véhicules électriques. Du même coup, nous réduirons les formalités administratives et les dédoublements pour les constructeurs automobiles. Et nous éliminerons les chevauchements avec les mandats de vente provinciaux. Our new government is building the Canada of the future. We're giving Canadians options that mean cleaner air in our neighborhoods, less pollution around schools and playgrounds, and lower energy bills. Because switching to electric vehicles means fewer emissions and significant savings through lower fueling and maintenance costs. Sorry about that. Alors que nous tournons vers l'avenir, les Canadiens s'attendent à ce que nous bâtissons une économie compétitive, résiliente et prête pour l'avenir. Ils recherchent la certitude. Ils veulent savoir que le pays s'oriente dans une direction qui est sensée pour leur vie, leur budget et l'avenir de leurs enfants. Malgré les incertitudes mondiales, nous savons que nous pouvons faire des choix judicieux quant à la prospérité de demain. Nous savons que nous pouvons décarboniser tout en développant une économie saine et inclusive qui profite à tous. Nous réduisons la pollution de façon durable en soutenant des choix qui conviennent dans la vie quotidienne. Si nous faisons correctement, la prochaine génération n'aurait pas à réparer nos erreurs. Elle héritera une économie forte, stable et conçue pour durer. And on that note, I'm very proud for the automobile strategy and everything that we're building for the future of our country. Thank you.
Bravo.
Super. Merci beaucoup, Ministre Dabrusin. Alors, once again, thank you all for coming. Merci à toutes et à tous d'être ici aujourd'hui et braver le froid. I do want to open up the questions from the media and welcome Charlotte Power, Press Secretary for Minister Hodgson, who will moderate the media availability. There you are.
Thank you very much. Merci à tous et à toutes de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. Nous allons maintenant donner la parole aux médias pour les questions. Nous vous invitons de vous mettre en file derrière moi par le micro. Dans l'intérêt du temps, nous demandons à chaque journaliste de poser une question et d'indiquer son nom ainsi que son média au début de votre question. We ask that all reporters line up behind the mic, and in the interest of time, we would ask each reporter to ask one question, no follow-up in the interest of time. And please state your name and outlet at the start of your questions, as well as the minister to which your question is addressed to. Thank you. Première question.
Morning, Ministers. My question is for Minister MacKinnon this morning. On the issue of affordability, the $5,000 rebate for the EV incentives program is set to be reduced at the end of the year. The government has other affordability measures to address, other measures to address affordability, but the previous version of ISEV never cracked 20% uptake in the market. And so why is the government going to reduce the incentive amount at the end of the year before even knowing whether the government's other affordability plans have even taken effect in the market?
You mean affordability plans with respect to vehicles?
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is that the price gap is being reduced. We think that the Minister of Environment just mentioned that now we're up to 1 in 4 vehicles. We're in kind of a Betamax VHS moment where we think VHS is starting to take the lead. I've just dated myself. I apologize for that. So the sliding scale downwards of the incentive, we believe, will reflect consumer take-up of these vehicles. I would also mention that with respect to the Chinese vehicles that will be allowed into Canada, fully 50% of those will be affordable, $35,000-ish electric vehicles. So we think there is a plethora of affordable options out there. Keeping at this $50,000 threshold will make sure that all Canadians who want to make the choice to go electric, any consumer of a new vehicle, a lease, a purchase, will have a plethora of options and indeed a very, very material incentive to be able to make that choice.
Bonjour, M. le ministre. Valérie Gamache de Radio-Canada. C'est à vous que je veux parler, M. MacKinnon. En tant que ministre des Transports, évidemment, il y a cette nouvelle menace de Donald Trump sur le pont Gordie Howe. Est-ce qu'il y a des négociations actuellement qui sont entamées avec la Maison-Blanche et ou avec des représentants de l'État du Michigan à ce propos-là? Est-ce qu'il y a des compromis même que le gouvernement pourrait faire?
Évidemment, hier est sortie cette déclaration. Nous ne savons pas d'où elle est venue ou qu'est-ce qui a pu la motiver. Mais je tiens à dire le suivant. Évidemment, ce projet-là, et je salue la participation et le travail du premier ministre Martin, du premier ministre Harper et du premier ministre Trudeau, ainsi que, évidemment, le premier ministre actuel, M. Carney, d'édifier ce pont-là, d'y consacrer, évidemment, beaucoup de ressources financières canadiennes, mais aussi des ressources humaines américaines et canadiennes, des matériaux américains et canadiens. Et ça va être un monument, moi je pense, pour un siècle ou plus à l'amitié, la fraternité, le partenariat entre nos deux pays. Donc je suis certain que nous allons pouvoir surmonter à ce moment à ce qui peut être un enjeu pour ce qui est du pont, mais c'est une très grande réalisation du Canada dont on est très fiers, et des Américains.
Mais là, actuellement, est-ce qu'il y a des négociations?
Sir, can we get that in English too, please, before you continue?
So that bridge will stand for over a century as a monument to Canadian and American friendship, ingenuity, work, and partnership. It was built with American hands, Canadian hands, American materials, Canadian materials, and obviously a great deal of Canadians' financial resources. I don't know what motivated the statement yesterday, but what I do know is that bridge will stand the test of time, and is a tribute to the work of prime ministers from Paul Martin through Mr. Harper, through Mr. Trudeau and now Mr. Carney, Republican and Democratic administrations at the state and national level. So we're very, very confident and proud and look forward to that bridge opening.
Good morning, Natasha Blowski, Canada's National Observer. Minister Hodgson, my question's about the $1.5 billion investment from the CIB. I know the announcement says this is for the charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure initiative, but we haven't heard whether the ZEV infrastructure program will be refunded. I understand that those two programs are, meant to be coordinated, and so I'm wondering whether the ZEV infrastructure program is going to receive any new funding from that $1.5 billion, or maybe a different funding envelope to help with projects that are in, rural, remote, multi-unit areas that aren't as well suited to the charging and hydrogen refueling fund.
So, will they have to? Just to say, because there are two separate programs, as you mentioned. There's a CIB, which is the Infrastructure Bank's investments, that was tripled in the announcement. So triple the funding that's going to go towards charging infrastructure across our country. Today, part of what we're announcing is actually new projects under the ZEVIT program. So I'm going to look to Minister Hodgson for the number. I believe it's 7,400 new units that are being constructed.
8,000.
8,000. Well, so the new announcement today under ZEVIT, the programs work side by side. Thanks.
But will it be refunded because it's set to end in 2027? And I understand it kind of fills a gap in those areas where large-scale deployment can be, tougher.
We'll spend the money in 2027. We'll see where we are.
Hi, Ministers. Noah Wachter with CTV News. My question's for Minister Dabrusin. Back in September, the Prime Minister said that the climate competitive strategy would be coming in just a few weeks' time. Last week, he kind of gave the same timeline and said just in a few weeks. I'm just wondering, when is it really coming, and why are we missing the timelines we're setting?
Well, in fact, in Budget 2025, we did set up the climate competitiveness strategy, and it was quite clear within that strategy. It's about building the fundamentals for the economy of the future while taking into account the fact that we need to move Canada to a low-carbon economy. So that means factors like reinforcing the industrial carbon price. It's like enhanced methane regulations, which we did announce in December. That's going to reduce our emissions by almost 400 megatons on its own, just with that regulation. It's about clean electricity. So those factors were built into the budget 2025. The next piece is about the implementation piece. So there is more to come. That's what he was talking about, and that will be coming soon. But as far as timelines, there has been progress, and I just really want to note that even what we're talking about today was the automobile strategy is part of how we're moving forward to a more climate competitive economy. So we had the strategy that was within the budget. You've seen next steps building on that with the enhanced methane regulations, with the automobile strategy, and there's more to come, which is great news for the environment and for our economy.
So it will be implemented in the next few weeks then?
It is implementing right
So like I said, we've been implementing pieces, as I've talked about, like with the enhanced methane regulations. We actually had a consultation on how do we reinforce the industrial carbon pricing. These pieces are in motion, and the automobile strategy as well. I think what he's signaling is that there is more to come, and like I said, that's good news for all of us. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. On a le temps pour une dernière question. Merci.
Hi, I'm Aya with iPolitics. My question is for either Minister Dabrusin or Minister Hodgson. As the federal government is considering supporting AI data center proposals, will it disqualify or penalize the ones that rely on natural gas? And if not, what's the plan for emissions?
There's a lot of good news in all of the opportunities that we have across all economic sectors, and includes developing stronger AI. We do have in place regulations as to how we make sure that our future is based on clean electricity. But the good news is, if you're talking about AI specifically, I believe we were just talking about strategies. There's an AI strategy that's coming out shortly, and so I'm going to leave it to Minister Solomon to be providing all of those details shortly.
So last week in committee, Minister Solomon said that Minister Hodgson was aware of the developments on that file, so perhaps we can hear you on that.
So we are focused on an AI strategy. We will focus on getting to our climate goals. We will do that with renewable energy, and where we use natural gas, we'll, to the extent possible, use abated natural gas.
Thank you. That concludes our media availability. Merci tout le monde.
Okay, folks, do you have time to take 2 more questions for reporters who've been standing out in the cold?
I'm so sorry. Ministers have to get to cabinet. Sorry, David.
That's okay. We'll take 1 or 2.
Yeah. Really appreciate it. Just real quickly, for Minister MacKinnon, rebates are supposed to be coming out. The incentives are supposed to be coming out in about a week's time. And no portal has been set up. Dealerships haven't been informed. Are you ready to roll them out?
Yeah, well, we'll obviously be processing some of those retroactively, but we're rapidly ramping up our capacity to do that.
Okay, that concludes our availability. Thank you.
Thank you.